Welcome to another exciting and informative episode of the Entreprenudist Podcast, a place to hear real entrepreneurs and business owners bear it all. And we have a financial freedom expert on the podcast today. Before we bring them up, I want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by Shield Wolf Strongholds, a wealth growth and protection company. When it comes to estate planning, when it comes to retirement planning, when it comes to employee benefits, when it comes to life insurance, if your plan ain't Shield Wolf, your plan ain't strong. If you are a business owner that wants you and your employees to retire higher than you would have prior, make sure you visit shieldwolfstrong.com or call or text +1 904 822 4262. Now to our guest. Daniel C. Rodgers, you can call him Dan, is an early retiree, financial independence educator, and the author of the award-winning best-selling book, Escape the Clock, Your Program Guide for Financial Freedom and Early Retirement. With years of experience leading major corporate programs and teaching financial literacy across Washington state, Daniel now helps people design financial plans that actually work. Drawing on his background as a professional program manager, he created a uniquely practical and structured approach that makes long-term financial independence achievable for everyone, anyone, and everyone. As the host of the Escape the Clock podcast, he uses his early retirement to teach others how to build work-optional lives and take back control of their time. Dan, welcome to the Entreprenudist Podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
All right. How long you been doing what you're doing now?
It's almost 2 years now, actually. All time has flown, to be honest. I'm like finally reclaimed and got my time back. And then I noticed how liquid it really is.
Yeah. And it's funny how many correlations there is to money and water, right? Is liquid, meaning that you can get to it within 1 to 3 days. You want all of your revenue streams to flow. When you go to the strip club, you make it rain, right? Right. I wonder, do you think that's an accident that money and water has so many correlations?
Oh, wow. I've never been asked that before, but I will say it feels great to be hydrated. Thanks. Yeah, I think, I've been getting, I'm about to get my degree in wealth management. I take all these classes and I just did another exam, and liquidity comes up a lot, actually. And it's such an important part of your financial picture. And we even think about it as business owners a lot of times is all of this, the business, the risk, the liquidity of it. And am I going to lock my cash up? What am I going to do? And it always comes back to risk. I guess the water thing, I'm not sure how they came up with that, but yeah, cash flow, water, all of it. It is about, motion. And I think there's a lot of sense of time is flowing. And as we go through this rapid river, there's only so much we can control. And so if we can at least steer the boat in a good way on that water, and we can make the water work for us, then yeah, we're going to end up in a great destination. And I guess, all I can say is embrace it. I don't think it's going anywhere.
Oh yeah. Who doesn't want currency, which is another correlation? Water current, the currency of the water.
There you go.
Right.
I didn't connect that. Yeah.
Is there nothing that you know now that you wish you knew when you first started?
Oh, so much. I mean, my journey was all about self-education because like everyone, I started in ignorance. Like I didn't know anything. I remember just seeing when I started collecting data, which is something that was helped me get control again, is all of these insights about how bad the situation was. Over $100,000 of debt. Actually, I had more, about $120,000 in debt. And then I finally got an income. And I kept thinking, well, once I have a job, I'm going to get some control. But when I started pulling that data together, I saw that at best, I could keep a flat line. Meaning no matter what, even if I could even anticipate a 5% raise every year, well, if I didn't have my lifestyle expand, I could just run on the treadmill, but I'd never get ahead. So there was a bunch of stuff as I was going through this education, as I was running this program for myself for freedom, that I wish I knew earlier, because time is the best compounding agent we have. And if the earlier we start with these things, the more powerful the accelerant becomes. And so if I had known some of these moves I ended up making later, and even did them even just a month or 6 months or 1 year earlier, not considering 10 or 15 years earlier, the amount of exponential growth I would have seen would have been staggering. So that's why I really wanted to write it down when people were asking me like, well, hey, this is amazing the way you did this. I wish my finance person would have done it like this. Well, I was like, okay, well, what book would I wanted to hand myself? What would the guide look like? What do I want my kids to have? I put that together because I'm like, that's the greatest gift you can give someone is knowledge. And that's what I was doing.
Oh, yeah. Definitely the greatest gift that you can give somebody is knowledge. But, you know, they always say knowledge is power. And that's actually not true. Knowledge is potential power. Applied knowledge is power. So that said, we all have access to the same knowledge. Can anybody achieve financial freedom?
Anybody can achieve it. Absolutely. Now, what does that life look like, though? I think that's where we got to stop for a moment and just have that reality check, right? Because think about all the different scale of lifestyles that we might see, right? You know, you can have a very modest lifestyle, and let's say you spend only like $60,000 a year. Well, you could absolutely have an inflation adjusted plan that helps you maintain that $60,000 a year lifestyle for as long as you need to. That's a very easy math problem. There's having the money in the right places with the right way of protecting that money and withdrawing that money. Absolutely. Anyone can do it. Now, do you want to live that $60,000 a year lifestyle forever? That's the question. So for me, I knew what the size of my life was. I knew how the shape of it would change based on big key events, such as I have 2 kids. One moved out, the other is going to move out eventually. We are planning on moving. We'll invest in a new home. Certain things will happen, which will be liabilities. But I ensured that I had the right amount of money already in place to fund those liabilities, and so that we could have a more comfortable or expanded lifestyle than the one that we had on the journey. So that was because I was making moves. I made income moves. I made certain investment moves. I made sure I never paid any credit card interest after I got debt free, things like that. There's these things and they add up. And once you start doing them all in a big concert together, magic happens. You know, it's the difference between listening to one instrument versus all the instruments together in the symphony. It can become very beautiful. But yes, any lifestyle of any size, as long as you have income and that knowledge that we talked about, can be applied with discipline to do it. Now, do you want a bigger, better lifestyle? That's the question, because that has a cost. There's a price tag with each of those things. It might take you 5 years longer. It might take you 10 years longer. Depends on how big of a lifestyle you're trying to pay for or fund. That's the question. But the good thing is that's just math, and that's a decision-making process. And when you have real data that, you know, you trust and will actually work, then you can make some decisions and you're not going blind and just hoping that you're going to be okay.
Oh, yeah. And you mentioned a word, inflation, and I know this is the holiday season. It isn't, inflation isn't how your pants feel after you eat that big meal, right? Inflation is something. Well, what was the cost of this product or service this same time last year compared to this year? And a lot of people might say, "Hey, Dan, I'm okay with living this $60,000 a year lifestyle," not realizing that every year that $60,000 is worth less due to inflation. How do you educate the people that you work with when it comes to inflation and how to protect against it?
Let's go back to the water thing for a second, right? This is the water eroding the rocks slowly over time, right? Erosion is going to happen. In this inflation, what it means is that dollar you work so hard to store away and save for yourself is losing power. It's just going to have less power in the future. The longer we wait, the less power it's likely to have. And we have no idea how much inflation is coming. We know there'll be some, and we're hoping it's not as bad as we expect. But there's a lot of things out there that already consider inflation and adjust for it. I mean, you look at things like certain treasury bills, they'll do adjustments for inflation. And I can talk about some of these things in more detail if you're interested. But Social Security, maybe the best example. When you get to a retirement age and you decide to take Social Security, they actually adjust it every year based on inflation so that you actually can make that money last that you work so hard to earn. The FIRE movement, the Financial Independence Retire Early movement, which is all about early retirement, they really focus on inflation as well. They have this magic number thing, 25 times whatever that cost was. We can stick with the 60, but I think 100,000 might be a better number. Let's just say $100,000 a year is what you think you're going to need to maintain your lifestyle. Would you just multiply that by 25? And that would become this magic savings goal for yourself. And then the idea is when you get to that number, you can quit your job, because they're all about early retirement, because you have all that money like a brokerage account, like an investment account. Then the idea is you just keep taking 4% out, inflation adjusted. So if inflation goes up 3%, you take 3%, adjust your 4% withdrawal rate for that 3%. And you keep doing that. And if it goes down, you take less. So, and then you're doing that all the way for those 25 years. There's a lot of issues with that approach, to be honest. For one, back when they did the Trinity study for that, they didn't consider longevity. People are eventually going to live longer. They didn't consider how healthcare was just going to constantly get more and more expensive and become more and more unaffordable for the average person. There's all these little factors there. So for me, when I think about inflation, I think about it as this, if we think about it as a video game for a minute, sorry, I play a lot of video games. It's kind of like a world effect that affects all players at the same time. It's like we all have to deal with it. All boats will rise or fall at the same size of the water. I guess I should stick with the water thing. And so because of that, we all will move with it. The groceries were up to 25, more expensive over the last year because of all these expanded costs. I mean, we felt that when you get milk or eggs, it is more expensive. Big price hikes. Well, if you've already adjusted your savings and you have strategies in place where you know that your amount of money that you can afford to spend is that much higher, then you've basically negated that and you're going to be okay. So what I did is I have this way of forecasting or modeling out inflation. And, of course, when you talk about forecasting, you're doing best guesses. But what you can do is you can do it based on some kind of margin of comfort for yourself. So you can say maybe it's anywhere between, the historical average. So let's say it's like 2% up to something crazy, like let's say 6%. And you can kind of get a better idea of your margin of error. And then I'm going to go back to liquidity now. Imagine you have all the money you needed for your freedom so you can quit your job and you're able to take that money out. Let's say you're doing this thing called tax gain harvesting. You're selling some of your stocks just to live off of, so you don't have to pay any taxes on them. You pay something called the 0% bracket. Well, you can live off of that, but let's say inflation is high that year, but you have liquid savings in a high yield savings account. That cash can offset the difference. So this is the magic that I use. The idea that I still have cash flow coming in because I have things like dividends and stock options and rental income or whatever. The more you can get, the better. So cash flow still comes. I can sell some stock up to a certain degree to not pay taxes. And then I have plenty in a cash account to offset the hard years. So I don't have to do something I don't want to do. And that money, when I'm not touching it, is compounding because it's a high yield savings account. It keeps growing. It's working for me. So when you start to like the concert thing again, when you start to realize each of those is an instrument you want playing for you and they work together really well, then you have a lot of confidence that you're almost like immune to these big world effects that is affecting everyone. Personally, the inflation didn't bother me this year because I knew I had ways to negate it and absorb it and move on. And I ended up with a 0% withdrawal rate for the year because I didn't have to end up selling any stocks because I knew I had enough cash flow and liquid savings to be able to absorb some of those costs for me. So these are the kinds of moves I think that can help a lot.
Oh, yeah. And that definitely sounds like a great plan. I know you're the early retirement expert, but you mentioned that Social Security, and Social Security, a lot of people refer to as the best annuity that you can get.
Sure.
Some people look at Social Security like it's an investment. All right, if I take it out early or later, how long does it take for me to break even from waiting to my earliest age I could have got it to the latest age I could have got it? Whereas the way that myself and a lot of my people that I work with, we look at it as long life insurance, because just like you said, it's inflation protected.
Yep.
And it keeps going until you pass away. Instead of looking at it, all right, I got all of these things that I can pull from, and I waited a whole additional 8 years before I accessed my Social Security. I think what it sounds like you're saying, and the way that I believe as well, you should look at it as long life insurance. What if I keep living? And do I want to be at the whims of all of these inflations? Because you said something crazy like 6%. We've been experiencing so much hyperinflation. It's a lot of craziness, right? And you know what they say, you know what the difference between crazy and eccentric is, don't you?
Crazy and eccentric? No, what's the difference?
Your bank account balance, right? So you definitely want to be considered eccentric in these hyperinflation years, but you need to know these things that you're saying, because everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yes.
Why do most financial plans fail, and how do you approach it to help people fix that?
Yeah, great question. And on the Social Security thing real quick, it is an investment. Like your human capital, your skills that you are getting a paycheck from, you are actually having money deducted into this account based on your best income earning years that you eventually will declare to take as a benefit. And with pensions pretty much gone and 401k experiment not showing to be the best bet as an investment for everybody, that's Social Security is the lifeblood for a lot of Americans, and it's under a lot of strain as a result. Now, it is passive income, like you mentioned, an annuity. Yeah, it feels like a fixed income annuity. It's a monthly payment, inflation adjusted for life. And when you decide to take it, because you might be getting a little less if you do it early, you might get more if you defer it, can make a big difference in your longevity and comfort and the lifestyle. Now, that decision is hard for people. Do I take it at 62? Do I take it at 65? Well, if you know what your lifestyle goal is and you know how much money you need, that becomes an easy problem. Now, that is passive income, though. If you have other sources of cash flow, now you might, mitigated Social Security. What if it's not there? And you have something else that feels much better knowing you have some insurance for that. Or if it is there, that's a bunch of extra money you got all of a sudden. Now you could spend more, or you could donate or give. Like there's all kinds of things you could do there. So yeah, I think it's important to think about the cash flow thing quite a bit. But to answer your question about the plans, Fidelity had done this study that said just the act of writing a plan down, just creating a plan at all, makes 66%. The 66% of people that do that become are more likely to be wealthy. So basically, people who are planners, take the active effort to plan, are wealthy people. Now, that's not to say that only wealthy people plan. I'm saying planning is a healthy act on the path of wealth, because what it's doing is it's tapping into the rational side of your brain, the planning side of your brain, to mitigate the emotional side of how we all react to money. And money is very emotional. But once we start planning, what we're doing is we're saying, well, one, I have to understand my goals. I have to look at data and see where I stand. And now I have to start using strategies to get myself towards that goal. That's a lot of power in that. I mean, the blinders come off. You can kind of see, you get all these insights when you start looking at your spending, for instance. You can start to go, oh, wow, I don't like that debt. What do I do with it? Well, now you can have conversations. And you can talk to a mentor, you can talk to a friend, a finance advisor, or anyone who you could trust and say, look, that's the situation. You can start learning. You look online. You can schedule time with me or whoever, and we can start to go and figure it out, because everything is solvable. Everything. And if you think about it that way, like, what is the nudge I need to get towards that goal? And these are a bunch of nudges that add up. Well, all of it now, what you're doing is you're just transforming your life. And now eventually work will become optional. And that's the way I wanted to run it for myself, because I was doing all this for these big companies like Microsoft's and Google's and building these big programs for them. And there's a reason they pay experts to come do this. There's like no way they're going to take a bet that these big strategic initiatives are just going to magically come together and everyone will be like, okay, I get it. Let's go do it. No, they need people to corral and to focus and put the structure together. Say, okay, here's the milestone. This is the thing we'll go to. Here's how we measure success. Here's the data that we need. Here's the resources we need. Here are the risks. Here's how to mitigate the risks. And I mentioned Social Security. You can mitigate that. You mentioned annuities like Social Security is like an insurance, which I thought is fascinating. A financial advisor would say, no, insurance is the insurance. If you're worried about outliving your money, your longevity risk is what they call that, then you should think about getting an actual annuity, is what they would say, because an actual annuity can be fixed income for life. And there's certain riders you can put on them to ensure that you will always get paid, in these different situations. But that's really expensive. And I'm not pushing annuities. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying you should go get an annuity today. What I'm saying is that is a strategic option for a specific situation that could make sense for an individual, same as some types of life insurance. I see these like whole life universal plans pushed like candy, and I hate it. I think it's predatory. It takes advantage of people, because people are told, if you get this special type of life insurance, now your money can be invested. You can take a loan against it. You can do all these kind of magical things. It's a super account. That's not true. It is not a super account. You can easily get in trouble. You got to pay those loans back. That money that you took out was money you had to put in to pay the principal in the first place. It's an insurance policy as a premium. It serves a need. Now, I'm not saying it's never a good thing. It can be. It could be the right thing for certain individuals. But the thing is, people will be preyed on ignorance. Someone will come and say, an insurance person will sell someone on these insurance policies because they know they don't know better. And they'll make it sound really, really good. And of course, any rational person will be like, yeah, I should do that. And they'll do it, and they'll put all this money in it, waiting for the value, but not really ever experiencing the value, because the whole financial picture hasn't clicked into place. Well, how do you know the value? You're just dumping money into this insurance thing. Well, I didn't die, so I didn't get any value out from that side. And my loved one didn't get any payout. We're not feeling any payout. Maybe you feel a little better peace of mind that you have some coverage there that you didn't have before. But the investments, the loan feature, people might feel forced to take advantage of those because they're not feeling any value from the money they put into that insurance thing they got sold on. And that is not the right way to work towards financial independence. Feeling, emotionally reacting and doing things because you want to get more value out of something, how do you know that's getting you ahead? That's what I'm getting at. So once with a plan, just to go back and to emphasize the plan piece, the plan is the place we keep ourselves accountable. It's where we dream, it's where we structure, and we can see that progress works.
Oh yeah, if you fail the plan, you plan to fail, and regardless of what the money vehicle is, whether it's a whole life policy, a universal life policy, a qualified retirement account, it's just a tool. Yeah. You can put a chainsaw in the hands of a skilled arborist, and this arborist is going to get this tree chopped down. You can try to put that chainsaw in the hands of a baby, and this baby might cut itself to death. And anybody that's trying to sell a life policy as an investment is doing it wrong. I don't want it. I don't want an investment in a life insurance policy because an investment is taxable if it's structured correctly. Because just like any tool, you go to anybody, say, hey, do you want Phil Mickelson's or Tiger Woods golf clubs? Do you want LeBron James's tennis shoes, or do you want Phil Mickelson's or Tiger Woods' ability to swing? Or do you want LeBron James's or Michael Jordan's ability to take off from the free throw line? It's all about the what you put into that tool and the ability to wield that tool. Because just like you said, it's a band, it's a concert, and try to have a regular person try to play a woodwind. You're going to split the reed or try to blow into a trumpet without the right mouthpiece. It's going to be a terrible sounding orchestra. But if you have someone that knows how to play it, and somebody that doesn't sell it to you as an investment, but as a life insurance policy, or somebody that, basically doesn't act on your ignorance, somebody that leads with education, I think that's how people can overcome that. So how do you help people retire early? Like, what's your strategy? What's your go-to?
Like any finance advisor, it's going to start with conversations, right? Like, what is your real goal here? And a lot of the people I talked to this last year, it was a lot of coming out of a place of fear on their side where they're worried about a job. They either got laid off, they're worried about getting laid off. They feel the cost increase like the rest of us. And a lot of the time these shocks are just wake up calls. A lot of people, without meaning to, go into autopilot where we just go through the motions, right? Like, wake up, go to work, do the best you can at work, take care of family, do the things you do, rinse and repeat, hoping for good outcomes to reward the effort and the intent. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you got to work hard, you got to give your best. But when you fall into those motions, there is a sense that you start to miss the bigger picture and you're not sure how to actually get ahead. When do you put down the gas pedal and when do you let off of it? Things like that. And what I noticed is with this autopilot stuff is you can get shocked out of it without meaning to. The news, for instance, I'll pick on the media for a second. There's a reason sensationalism news is so common. And there's a reason that when you look at finance news, it's almost always the 3 hot stocks. Why is that? How's that finance news, right? There's a reason that those are the popular articles. And it's because people love the idea that, okay, one, it's the news either scaring me about tariffs or trade or jobs or interest rates, or, the AI bubble popping. But on the other side, it's like, well, here's the 3 hot stocks I could invest in to maybe be okay. Well, there's a reason those are the articles, because if the articles and the covers was go do this really boring diversification thing and putting money into a CD ladder or something, no one's going to it's like people would learn it. And if they did it, they would never need the information anymore. They did the thing. So I guess that's the way of me pointing out that you'll get shocked to wake. And when you do, and people come to me and I'm helping them, the conversations can be tough sometimes. It's like, well, what are you working towards? A lot of times it's like, oh, I'm not sure. I want to be okay. I'll retire someday. I'm not sure when. Things like that. And so there's a little bit of introspection that has to happen there, right? Which is trying to be a little selfish for a minute. Think about you, what you've been putting off, what you're deprioritizing. What do you need? What are you sacrificing? And at some point, you want to live your life, and you're giving your time to a company and to others. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, our time is its own currency as well. But you imagine in a system, in a society that's all about the race, our time is constantly being strained. And that leads to fatigue. And that fatigue makes autopilot harder to break. And so things will shock you out of it. But then the conversation comes down to, how do we make a permanent system to stop you from falling back into it? And that's where the planning comes in, because once you have a goal you're actually excited about. Now, I'm not talking about some general number, no 25x number thing. I'm talking about a real thing, a lifestyle that you're trying to work towards. That's when things become real. You have to imagine the life that you wish you were living today, that you're going to fund for tomorrow. Now that becomes something we can break down into actionable steps, milestones to celebrate, projects that can put a ribbon around a to-do list, and then easy to follow actions that you can see a needle move the right direction on. And that's why the data and the conversations are everything, because when you have that exciting thing that taps into your intrinsic motivation, that grit that makes you, the reason you started a business, the reason that you tried to get a promotion, the reason you proposed, whatever it is, that thing, when that's working for you towards your financial freedom, you are unstoppable. Then every single scary thing that comes in the news, that's nothing. When you have a setback, it's a road bump. It's whatever. I have a plan B I'll take. Nothing will stop you because you're a force of nature at that point. And so a transformation has to happen. It can't just be, what's your money goal? Okay. When would you like to retire? Great. Here's a finance plan. Any normal finance person can do that. That's not a program. That's just help me. I'll manage your money for you, so that I can tell you over and over you're okay. And I can give you advice when you ask for it. You can get that from anybody. What I'm saying is when you build a program, you can tap into the most powerful thing in the world, which is you are the most biased person for your own success. Nobody else. And once you do that and you realize that and you have the tools for it, you're really unstoppable.
So what's some of the money vehicles that you use?
Oh, wow. Well, one is there's the not uses. So look, that's not a bad thing when you use it intentionally, but the autopilot debt is really, really terrible. We live in a system that's designed to entrap people into debt. You have to be just aware of avoiding that. So if you look at the numbers, it's just gut punch, right? Gen Z, 7.8% year over year debt growth, highest we've ever seen in a generation, $34,000 average debt for an 18 to 28 year old. That means a $3,500 credit card balance for a young person right now. Millennials have almost $7,000 of a month of credit card balance. Like, these numbers are huge. And so that's the first thing we have to understand is the system is designed to entrap us into not developing wealth. The wealthy know how to protect it and grow it, but to get to the point where you build it, take some moves. And the first is you should borrow with intention. And that means only borrow what you can afford to pay off, because the premiums of borrowing is so high. Because 20-something% of interest against you, that compounds the negative way. That means you buried yourself. So the first thing you have to do before you make any other move is deal with that. So that takes some looking at, there's some levers we have. One, we can look at our spending. We can say everyone thinks they don't have enough money to throw on things like this. But the truth is, I've yet to met a person who we can't free up plenty of money to pay off a credit card. Like, it's there. And there's nonprofits you can find. You don't have to trust me. There's nonprofits. Don't do a paid service, but nonprofits who will help with credit card counseling. They'll do this exact thing. They'll negotiate with the credit card company. They'll help you figure out where your cash flow is and how to deal with it. But dealing with it's the first step. You have to get into the mindset of not borrowing unless you know you're doing it for the rewards, meaning I know I can afford to put $2,000 in my credit card because I can pay $2,000 that month. If you can't afford to pay that amount you're putting on, you should not be putting anything on it. I know that is a hard thing to hear for a lot of people. You think you have to do it. The truth is you don't. You can disconnect that auto payment that you have online. You cannot have the tap on your phone. You cannot bring the credit card with you, and you can see how your lifestyle fits, because, you know, like I promise you, if I gave you $1,000, I bet you could spend it. Like, we are good at spending the money we're given. And if you automatically start moving money into the places that you naturally aren't taking the extra steps to move it, you will fit your lifestyle with the money that's left. Just like the deductions in our paychecks. Some of it goes in that Social Security we talked about. Well, we're not all out in the street. Somehow we made our lives work with that deduction. Well, guess what? You can put a 10%, possibly, we look at the numbers, but whatever that magic number is for you, let's say it's 10% auto investment automatically into a savings account. Well, that's a powerful move. Now you're actually saving in a high yield savings account, one that has positive compound interest. So we eliminate the negative compound interest in the debt. We start building automatic contributions into positive compound interest on the savings. And now what we're doing is we're building ourselves up a buffer to not have to borrow when life hits us hard later, and excuse me, have enough room comfortably to invest. And that's the thing. I think a lot of people, especially young people, they jump to investing too quick. They get too excited about a meme stock or something like that. The truth is, with investing, as long as you're not borrowing, you all that you can lose is what you put into it. So once you know the money you put into it, you can afford to lose. Now it's a very comfortable thing to do. And especially when you learn there's low cost index funds or broad, already diversified investments that will hedge changes in the market. Now what you've done is you created a snowball that will avalanche into wealth. It might take 5 or 10 years, but depends on the market. But these little moves, these add up, and you can have these all in your plan. And each of these is a milestone. Eliminate the credit card debt, live debt free, get to your high yield savings account, auto contributed goal, get to your brokerage investment account goal, get to your retirement account goal. When you start knocking those things off, guess what? You get to a point where you realize you're financially free. You might be having a passive income coming through dividends or through your interest rate. Maybe you're using a CD ladder for interest, or you're using your high yield savings account. Doesn't matter. Whatever makes sense to you, what you're comfortable with. When you realize you still have cash coming in and you're comfortably covering your costs, then you can not work. You can quit. Like, you really don't have, we're not beholden to our jobs. Like, if we have the money, you don't have to do it. It's your choice.
So, yeah, I mean, and what you're saying makes perfect sense, right? You don't borrow what you can't pay back. And when you pay off all of your high interest credit cards, and when you pay off all of those high interest credit cards, you can put it into a high yield savings account. And with the money generating from that high yield savings account and the money that you're not putting into these high interest credit cards, you can then start investing and put it into retirement accounts. Now, what do you consider a retirement account?
Yeah, I mean, I would actually do the retirement account thing today, because if you have a job that has a 401k or 403b, or especially if there's a match, take advantage of that money today. Like, that money will grow. It's usually invested. So I would say, and that's like a one-time contribution, right? Like, again, out of the paycheck usually, depending if it's a pre-tax or after-tax account. But yeah, to answer your question, the first thing is think about your work retirement accounts, your 401ks, your 403bs, things like that. You should have that money doing work for you as you're working. But then a lot of people don't realize you can have a personal retirement account. You can get an IRA, and the 62% of households don't even have one of these retirement accounts between the ages of 35 and 44. So people, an entire age group right now, do not have a retirement account. Now, what does that mean? That means they have no option of having money when they later in life, when they probably won't have a job. Now, that's really scary. I mean, maybe Social Security will be there, but that usually means working in your 60s and 70s. That's not a fun place to be when you're at that age. So the personal retirement accounts have contribution limits. You can't just put an infinite amount of money in there. But especially a Roth account, which is an after-tax account, is a very powerful one. So what I always usually recommend is look at your work retirement account. Usually it's a pre-tax account, like a 401k. Take your match, and then hit the limit that you are legally allowed by the IRS to contribute into a Roth. And the Roth is after tax, meaning you'll never pay taxes on it after that ever again. No matter how much it grows, no matter when you take the money out, you're never forced to take the money out. Unlike a pre-tax account, there's this required distribution you have to take when you're in your 70s. Eventually, you're forced to take it out. And you might be like, well, who cares? That's why it's there. But the truth is, even later in your life, you're still going to care about taxes. So if you're forced to take too much out, you're like, oh crap, I'm paying too much taxes. But that's the magic. You tap that bucket, make those that's a one-time move, by the way. It's a once a year contribution to those retirement accounts. Then the rest of it is maintain that debt to zero. And then that savings, once you hit that comfortable buffer that you need there to be okay, everything else is just investment. And that will grow. And then before you know it, you're never going to be in this situation where you feel like you're in trouble. Now there's other things I can talk about, insurance and passive income stuff. Those help make it even more comfortable, but that's the basics. And I think I cover all that in the book. I talk about how to put that into a plan, because once you have it in a plan, then it's something not only that keeps you motivated and honest about your progress, but it's something you can share with somebody and get feedback on and learn new ideas with and all kinds of stuff. It's really powerful.
Yeah, I'm happy that you distinguish between the traditional and the Roth retirement accounts. So whether it's through an employer or through personal, a lot of people are taught by traditional advisors that they should defer taxes until after they retire, when quote unquote they'll be in a lower tax bracket. But I think, and that's what people say, but I think if you were to actually talk to your older people in your family, like actually have a conversation, don't just read a book and what the financial advisor says, actually talk to the people in your family that are retired and ask them, is their tax bracket the same, lower, or higher in retirement? I think most people will tell you that their tax bracket is the same or higher. Reason being, when you retire, typically you're no longer contributing to a qualified retirement account that Dan is talking about. And now there goes that credit. Typically, when you retire, you're no longer paying the mortgage. There goes that credit. Now, all of a sudden, when the money means the most to you, that's when you don't have it. A bank robber doesn't rob somebody on the way to the bank. They rob them coming from the bank. And in retirement, that's essentially like coming from the bank. And like you said, that those required minimum distributions, what ends up happening to people is they don't understand that with their Social Security, depending on where your money is coming from and if your money is coming from whether it's a Roth, a Roth they don't consider that as a provisional, part of your provisional. But if your money is coming from a traditional retirement account, even a high yield savings account, they consider that income, and up to 85% of your Social Security can be taxed. So it looks like you're definitely leading people in the right path, because you want your money to be liquid. You want to be able to get to it. Now, if you're focused on early retirement, depending on what your definition of early is, whether it's a Roth or a traditional, just know you can't get to that money until after you're 59 and a half without penalty. Want it to be safe? Yes. Putting money in a traditional savings account, not talking about a high yield account, but a traditional, it's going to be underperforming that inflation, and you want it to be good, predictable rates of return. But most importantly, when it gets down to the bottom of it, not most importantly, but a big deal, you want to know what that tax treatment is, and it seems like your strategy that you help a lot of people realize is how to make sure it's liquid and how to make sure it has the best predictable rates of return, that is safe, and it has good tax treatment.
Yeah, look, all these things have advantages to them and there's disadvantages. And it's so complicated that I really am not surprised that not everyone understands this stuff, right? Like, and finance people will kind of take advantage of it, to be honest. Not everyone. There's a lot of great finance people. But sometimes I'll notice, I had a finance guy, I've had 7 of them total. I fired most of them. But I had one at one point going through this contribution strategy on retirement accounts. And I was asking about the taxes. And he's like, oh, I don't know. I'm not a CPA. He's like, you have to go to a CPA for that. I'm like, but then how can you confidently tell me that this is our strategy? He's like, well, no, this is what I think you probably need to do. You go talk to a CPA and then come back to me. And I'm like, no. If you can't look at my whole financial picture, you're not offering me the kind of advice I can trust. So I'm not saying you have to all go become CPAs. What I'm saying is each of these things have advantages and things like that, and you can use them properly as a tool. And so there's a reason that it makes sense to put money in a pre-tax retirement account when you're working. It's a qualified distribution, and it can lower, we live in an income taxation society, right? So it lowers the amount of income you can declare to have to pay taxes on that year. So it lowers your taxable rate. So by putting more into your pre-tax, you're paying less taxes that year when your income's highest. That's a good thing. Same with the mortgage you brought up. That deduction, mortgages can be great, right? We can deduct interest that we paid. And that's a lot of reason people like to keep the mortgage around, because I'm getting a deduction here. But what about when you're in an early retirement? Well, your income isn't from your job isn't there. So that mortgage is now just a liability. You're not getting any deduction benefit from it anymore. That pre-tax thing's not helping you at all, because you don't need to bring down the income that you have because you have less income. Same in an actual retirement situation. Like, people go, well, I'm retired, I don't have income. Yeah, you do. You have interest income. You might have dividend income. You might have income from these little sources. Now, it's probably not a lot, but that's income. On top of that, your RMDs are income. When you're forced to take that money out, it's taxed from your pre-tax account. So defer is the word here. You helped yourself in your high income years, but you pushed the pain off to your retirement years because you knew in the income system you'd have less income. So the hit that you would take would be lessened. You lessen the blow. But what if you oversave in that one way? You lessen the blow so much that you're actually not optimizing for it. You know, you're going to get knocked out by Tyson in this case, because by the time you're taking these things, you in that other income that you didn't think about, it piles up. You actually push yourself into a tax bracket. Now, all of a sudden, you're paying more taxes. That's what you need to think about. So it's a balancing game. Put enough in category A and then put the rest in category B. Now, that might sound overwhelming, but in my book, I put a table together. I'm like, here's the ages, 59 and a half, you can start doing this. And, 62 is the earliest you can do this, 65 for that. These are milestone ages that we can play with, like we can target, and our strategies are fluid. The water is flowing, right? So we can change our strategies as we hit these ages, knowing that this is the right thing for my taxes here to make my taxes better there. Because guess what? We can optimize our lives based on these rules and ensure that we are getting the most out of every moment without sacrificing. And that's the key. FIRE is all about sacrificing. The way I look at it is look at all these tools as having some benefit to helping you optimize towards living the best life you can at any given moment that you're living it.
Oh yeah, there's more than one way to skin a cat, because like I say, it's I believe all truths are parallel. And if you were to go to a farmer and you were to ask a farmer, hey, would you rather pay taxes on what it costs you to buy this handful of seeds, or would you rather pay taxes on what this field full of crops would get you? Every farmer is going to tell you they rather pay taxes on what it costs them to buy these handful of seeds. Yeah. And yes, in my opinion, and that's where you and I slightly differ. In my opinion, you contribute to your qualified retirement account, especially if it's a Roth. But in my opinion, don't contribute more than what that match is, and then find other things to do. Because once again, in my opinion, when it comes to these qualified retirement accounts, defer is another word for procrastination. And there have been plenty of studies that show you that a lot of times, a lot of people don't, make out the best in these situations, because yes, psychology does take over. We
actually don't defer on this. What I was saying is take the match. Okay. Because the match is free money. You want to max out the match and stop. Mm-hmm. Okay. And after that, put the rest in the Roth is what I was saying. So would you want to max out the after tax as much as you have? You want to give yourself room to do that. If you go too hard on your pre-tax, like you were saying, I get procrastinating to take the hit later. The defer hits you, and you can create a problem for yourself. I have a friend who I've been helping. He had a couple $1 million in a pre-tax account. And I was super impressed with him for doing so well. He went more than the match for his entire career. But I calculated the RMD for him that he was at the rate he was going. And I showed him that he was actually going to have made it through a few tax brackets by the time he got to where he wanted. And it was eye-opening for him. And it was an easy change, right? He just stopped pausing those contributions there, started putting them somewhere else. Now to save a bunch of money. Got rid of a bunch of future pain. So I agree with you. And I think what we're saying, and I know we spent a little time on it, I think it's important though. Mm-hmm. Like, these are one-time actions you can do to set yourself up and feel better. but don't have to limit yourself to a retirement account. You can do the same thing in an early retirement account or a brokerage account. You can do the same thing with a savings account. These little places, all these accounts have benefits to them. And when you understand which accounts you need, let's talk about kids for a second. Kids are expensive. If you have a single dependent, the average cost is around $200,000 for the 18 years that they would be living in your home. $300,000+ if you support paying for their higher education. That's per kid. No, the costs don't double necessarily, but they increase quite a bit as you have more kids. That's an expensive liability, but that doesn't mean we should never have children. Not at all. Those kids have their own human capital. They'll contribute their own money, but that cost of higher education is staggeringly high. It keeps going up. It is so expensive to put these kids through school. And most kids need the help. Look at the data. The numbers blew me away. It was something like 70% of parents end up paying for a significant part of their kids' higher education, even if they didn't plan to. You will pay for it no matter what if they decide to go. So what do you do there? Do I tap into my retirement account? That's where I've been putting the money. No, don't do that. Don't hurt your retirement. Well, where else do I get it? Well, that's a different account. There's 529 accounts. They're specially designed for this scenario. They have some local or federal advantages that you can use for paying for qualified education expenses. I did that for my kid. I was just putting $300 a month into that. You can open it even before they're born. You can set yourself as the beneficiary and then change it to them once they have a social security number, and then boom, anyone can use that money. And there's a new rule that up to a certain limit, you can roll that money into an IRA for them. So if they don't use all that school money, now they have an IRA. You gave them a jump start. So you're taking care of them in a bigger way. You're thinking about their retirement all of a sudden. So all these accounts, they have features, and yes, it's a cash flow game. How much money do I have left that I can put in the right places based on the goal? And once you have the data and the plan, that becomes a much easier decision to make.
And matter of fact, you just brought something to my memory. If anybody has had a baby that was born since the 1st of this year on up to December 31st of 2008, you can go to your federal bank or credit union and ask them to open up a Trump account for you. When you open up this account, they put in a free $1,000, and you can put in up to $5,000 a year into this account. It's essentially treated like a IRA, and then once the child turns 18, is fully treated for the most part like an IRA. So that's just something. If somebody's looking for a free $1,000, go ahead and take it. Right. If you had a baby that was born since the beginning of this year on up through the 31st of 2008, go ahead and get that free money. I don't care what your political affiliations is. And if you subscribe to the qualified accounts, go ahead and continue to contribute to that. And they actually have tables that let you know how much that money would be worth, even if you just let that $1,000 sit there and not contribute it anymore. So that's just something to keep in mind. A couple more questions for you, Dan.
Sure.
What books do you recommend?
Oh man, I've read a lot of money books. If we're on that area, I guess if we want to focus there. But The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel is really good. There's also a book called Mind Over Money by Brad Klontz and his brother Ted Klontz. They're both financial psychologists. So the mental part of money is really fascinating to me because human behavior is a lot of what we're actually talking about here. Yeah, knowing what accounts and stuff, that's great. But, understanding how to mitigate ourselves, how to tap in our strengths and mitigate our weaknesses, that's huge. Next Door Millionaire is a good book if you're trying to understand that. Look, we live in a status-driven society. And because someone's signaling wealth, that doesn't actually mean they're wealthy. A lot of times it's the person who's driving the beat up car or making the sacrifices that actually is the millionaire, the one that with the real money. It makes me think of spending so much money to get like a pair of like Air Jordans to signal that you love basketball. That's great. But if you go to the court and you can't even make a simple layup, like what's going on there, right? It all falls apart. Like, there's a status versus a reality here, practicing the money thing versus just signaling money, because what that does is just living the status forces more and more borrowing and more trouble to maintain, the status quo, and status quo is really dangerous. There's just so many good books. There's literally like 50 books I could recommend. I've read these books. They're great, but I realize that the problem with this is you can't recommend 50 books to someone to go figure out the money picture. That's why I wrote my book to be the comprehensive guide. And I think that's why I won all those awards, is because it's so difficult to get the big picture like we've been talking about. So I tried to take the best of all these things that influenced me and put it in that one guide. So that's why I wrote Escape the Clock. And I think hopefully if there's one book people read, it would be that. Not because I made it as cheap as I could make it. My goal is because of the information there. I wanted to get so much value out of it. The strategies, the ideas, understanding these ages, these account types, these moves, and the mindsets as well, because they're all really important.
Man, I'm envious. I'm finishing up my book. I've been finishing up for over a year now. It's called The Miracle Money Vehicle: How to Make Money Make Babies. Nice. I'm looking forward to counting myself along as an author alongside you. Is there not a question that I didn't ask you that I should have?
Well, one, I would love for you to send me your book. I would love to read it. So please do that. Look, we could go 1,000 directions with this. Like there are interesting conversations about like why the people who make all the right moves still stay in the status quo. Why don't they make the changes? Why don't they do that retirement they work so hard for? There is a real situation with that where we see people in like the FIRE community. They'll hit their number and they'll bulk, and they won't quit the job. They won't do the thing. There's a lot of interesting things there. There's also, things around the system, just understanding that we do live in a system of basically how difficult it is for generational wealth to be maintained. You can make all the money in the world, but 60% is usually gone by your next generation, and then 90% by the third. And generational and wealth is transferred. And we get the housing stuff quite a bit, and why it's so difficult to get a house and stuff with that. Anyways, I guess what I'm getting at is I can't think of one specific question that we didn't cover that could be it, but I'd be always happy to come back and we can dive into more stuff if you want.
Absolutely, man. It's one of those things to where, like I said, there's more than one way to skin a cat. I think everybody's heard that saying. Do you know where that saying comes from?
Oh, where it comes from. Oh my gosh. I know it's a crazy idea that you're skinning a cat in the first place. I don't know why you're doing that, but no, where does that come from? Do you know?
So a while ago, cat fur used to be all the rage, right? Okay. Women used to wear cat fur, right? And the way that they would extract the cat fur from the cats is they would pour live cats into a vat of boiling water.
Oh, I'm not going to tell my daughter this story.
So check this out. They would pour live cats into a vat of boiling water until one day somebody said, there's got to be more than one way to skin a cat. There has to be.
Oh, that's nuts. Oh, those poor animals.
Those poor animals. Dan, one more time, let people know who you are, what do you do, and how they can get in touch.
Yeah, my name is Daniel C. Rodgers. I'm now, I guess, a financial freedom expert, and you can find information about me, my book, my ad-free podcast, or my Spark Planner, which I turned into a free template because I understood a lot of what people pay for with financial advisors isn't just the knowledge, it's the tool. And so I put my tool up for free on my website, but it's all at escapetheclock.com. You can even schedule time with me for free. I will never charge you if you just need help getting started, trying to figure out how to get your plan put together. I was a professional program manager. I worked for 20 years before I hit my retirement, and I'm very close to getting my degree as a wealth manager as well. But I'm happy to meet with you, just help you get started. You can schedule time with me at my site.
All right. So everybody listening, at exactly the 59-minute mark, Dan said he would never charge you. Okay. So if you want me to send you a copy of this for your records, please let me know.
You can hold me to it.
Hey. All right, man. Hey, this has been another exciting and informative episode of the Entreprenudist Podcast. I'm your host, Randolph Love III. Remember, if you are listening to our voices, make sure you check out the show notes. Not only will you see more information about Dan, but you'll see a link to watch the video of our handsome and immaculate ebony and ivory faces in your places. Until next time, don't play with it, stay with it until you make pay with it. This is the Entreprenudist Podcast, signing off.